Happy Friday and welcome to Africa Good Morning, where we broadcast the news making headlines across our beautiful continent and beyond. My name is Aina Raizakoya alongside Diana Master. How are you, my darling?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Happy Good Friday.
Happy Good Friday. It's a long weekend.
It's a long weekend.
And you and I will be working. So I don't know, I can't ask you about your plans because your plans are clearly to be at work.
Clearly to be at work, but what can we do?
Yeah.
But let's get into what you can expect in today's broadcast. Zimbabwe to criminalize foreign recruitment of health workers. 9 suspected cash-in-transit robbers killed in shootout with Gauteng police. Protests planned as Sudan's army promises to stick to delayed transition deal. Later on in the show, we're going to be crossing over to Zambia to speak to Mr. Mike Sichula, who will give us all the latest news on the ground. Stick around, top stories coming up after this.
Straight Talk is a debate competition for high school learners and a spelling competition for primary school learners, mostly focusing on current affairs among the youth. Contact Zone at synergy.com.na to share your products and services. Straight Talk. Don't raise your voice, improve your argument.
In our top story this morning, Zimbabwe to criminalize a foreign recruitment of health workers. Zimbabwe's Vice President Constantino Chiwenga announced that the country intends to introduce a law that could make it illegal for other nations to recruit its health workers. The move aims to prevent the loss of valuable healthcare professionals to other countries, which has been a long-standing issue for Zimbabwe's healthcare system. Master Chiwenga, who is also the health minister, stated that the loss of healthcare professionals is comparable to human trafficking. He announced stricter penalties for those who he alleged had deprived the nation of its human capital. If one deliberately recruits and makes the country suffer, that's a crime against humanity. People are dying in hospitals because there are no nurses and doctors. That must be taken seriously, Master Chiwenga said on Wednesday. Zimbabwe frowns at his heinous crimes, which also grave violation of human rights, he added. Now, local media says more than 4,000 nurses and doctors have left Zimbabwe since February 2021. The UK's National Health Service has been an attractive destination for Zimbabwean doctors and nurses, as wages are far higher than those paid back home.
Now getting into our next story, 9 suspected cash-in-transit robbers killed in Gauteng shootout with police. The Gauteng house where 9 suspected cash-in-transit robbers were killed in a shootout with police this week belongs to a parolee, according to Police Minister Bekitele. 8 of the suspected robbers were killed at the house on Thursday morning, and the 9th died of his injuries in hospital. Now, according to police spokesperson Brigadier Atlinda Mate, 3 others who were wounded are in hospital. These suspects are believed to be behind a spate of cash-in-transit heists in Gauteng and surrounding areas, she said. Now speaking at the scene, Kele said the police needed to work harder with the Department of Justice and Correctional Services after it was alleged that the house belonged to a parolee.
In our next story, protests planned as Sudan's army promises to stick to delayed transition deal. The head of Sudan's army said on Thursday he remained committed to a plan for a new transition towards elections despite a dispute over integration of the paramilitary forces that have twice delayed the signing of a final deal. The agreement, which provides for the formation of a civil government and is strongly supported by international community, is meant to end a political vacuum that followed an October 2021 coup. But the signing was postponed for a second time late on Wednesday as the army and the powerful paramilitary rapid support forces continue negotiations over the commitment they would make on military restructuring. The agreement faces opposition from pro-democracy resistance committees that reject negotiations with the military and have led anti-military protests since the coup, which derailed a previous political transition. They planned demonstration on Thursday to mark the 4th anniversary of a 2019 sit-in that led to the overthrow of longtime autocratic ruler Omar al-Bashir.
Now swinging back over to Zimbabwe, excuse me, voters intimidated on the phone, says NGO. Rights activists on Tuesday accused the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, where presidential and parliamentary elections are due to be held in August, of disclosing the phone numbers of voters who they said had received intimidation messages from the ruling party. According to local NGO Team Pachelu voters, some of them newly registered have received personalized text messages in Shona, including the name of the constituency to which they belong and signed with the name of President Emmerson Mnangagwa, who is running for re-election. This information only appears on the new electoral lists and only the ZEC is supposed to have access to it, stressed the organization contacted by AFP. In addition, the people who receive the messages are new registrants as well as opposition supporters who have never provided their details to the ruling ZANU-PF, added Team Pachelu. The organization has declared its intention to sue. Asked by AFP, the Electoral Commission denied having provided any contact details. We have not given anything to anyone, said its Vice President Rodney Simukai Kiwa.
In our next story, peace process takes another step forward as Tigray unveils new interim cabinet. A 27-member cabinet for Ethiopia's war-scarred Tigray was unveiled on Wednesday. Official media in the region reported the latest step in a peace process to end 2 years of brutal conflict. The cabinet includes members of the Tigray People's Liberation Front and the military commanders who fought federal forces during the war, according to Tigray TV. The establishment of an interim administration was a key tenet of peace deals signed in South Africa's capital Pretoria in November 2022 by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government and the TPLF. Last month, the Ethiopian government said the TPLF spokesperson Gauteng Reda, the public face of the rebels during the war, had been appointed head of the interim government. That followed the Ethiopian Parliament's move to remove the TPLF from the official list of terrorist groups in line with the November deal. Now, Gabriel Michael, who had been president of the Tigray region since 2018, formally handed over the reins to Gauteng during a ceremony on Wednesday, according to Tigray TV.
Now closing off our top stories, Ugandan minister to be charged over iron sheets scandal. A Ugandan cabinet minister is to spend Easter in jail after being charged over a scandal involving the theft of thousands of metal roofing sheets. They were intended for vulnerable communities in the northeastern Karamoja region. Mary Goreti Kitutu Kimono, the minister for the region, pleaded not guilty in court but was denied bail. At least 10 other senior government figures are alleged to have received some of the stolen corrugated iron. These include the vice president, the Prime Minister, the Parliamentary Speaker and other ministers, according to the Inspector General of Government. Some of them told the parliamentary committee investigating the corruption scandal involving 14,500 missing iron sheets that they had not asked for them. The Prime Minister has apologized and urged other officials to return the sheets. Speaker Anita Among told the House that she had returned the ones she had received. One minister was recently forced to remove some from the roof of his goat shed, local media reported. Karamoja has for decades faced persistent droughts and flooding when it rains, leaving many in the semi-arid northeastern region dependent on aid. Mrs. Kitutu will remain in custody until next Wednesday. It is alleged that instead of distributing the roofing materials to Karamoja communities, she gave them to her relatives and officials.
After the break, we speak to Master Mike Sichula all the way from Zambia. Stay with us.
Mics are off. Yeah.
NMH at 1 brings you news from all across Namibia. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact NMH1 at synergy.com.na. NMH at 1, your lunchtime news companion. Now, Zambia has been elected as a member of the World Food Programme Executive Board, and here to give us the full details, Mr. Mike Sichula. Good morning, Mr. Sichula. Please take it away.
Africa, good morning. Happy Friday to all our viewers. Wow, as our viewers might know, the World Food Programme is a leading UN humanitarian organization whose aim is saving lives through the delivery of food assistance in emergency and changing lives by working with communities to improve nutrition and to build resilience. So 6 members were elected at the management meeting, with Zambia having been endorsed in its capacity for a 3-year term beginning 1st January 2014 to 31st December 2016. So Zambia, as a member of the executive board, will support WFP by providing corrective solutions to advancing sustainable development and combating world hunger, which is critical to Africa's agenda of reducing poverty and alleviating the plight of most vulnerable people in the region. So that is what Zambia has managed to achieve at the World United Nations in New York.
All right, Master Sichula, we understand that the Baba Oneuptwo former President Edgar Lungu has been sentenced to 25 years in prison for the murder of a member of the governing party, the UPND.
Yes, Mr. Shebi Chilekwa was a Babaman to former President Edgar Lungu, and that is him there in the far right, flanking the other lady there. The other lady used to be the deputy secretary general for the opposition Patriotic Front, and she was they were arrested together, but her on the 6th. This month, she was released. The government discontinued the case against him, but he has been sentenced to 25 years in prison and with hard labor. The incident happened when the opposition Patriotic Front was in power sometime in 2019, 2018. So that case was never followed up, not until the current administration came into power and they started pursuing it. So Lawrence Banda is the victim who was killed in the western province of Zambia during some political activities. So Mr. Shebi Chilekwa has been found guilty and he's been sentenced to 25 years in prison. However, his lawyers have appealed the case, saying that the trial judge did error in a number of stages of this case. Hence, they are hoping that his appeal can be heard so that probably he is not sentenced for that longer of 25 years in prison.
All right. Now, Mr. Mike Sichula, just a few days ago, you did bring to us the story of the men that were accused of abducting 13 women, saying that they were supposed to go under medical evaluation to see if they could undergo trial. And now, of course, one of the men has been said to not be fit to stand trial. Please give us the details.
Yes, just briefly to inform our viewers, the 2 men were accused of having abducted 13 young ladies for more than 1 month. So they have been arrested and they are supposed to start trial in the High Court. However, one of them, as according to their lawyers, he said not to be fit to stand trial. This was brought to the attention of the court yesterday, but however, the court said they are not convinced by the medical report, which is backdated to 23rd March 2023. So the court has disputed that medical report, and hence is calling for a new, fresh medical report. And that fresh medical report, the doctor who is going to prescribe over that medical report, he has been required to come before the court in person and explain why one of those persons cannot stand trial. So this is the state of affairs presently. When this medical report was brought to the court, the court was not convinced by it, And one of the reasons is because it was backdated to 23rd March 2023, which is something that has raised concern amongst members of the court, including members of the general public, who are wondering why such a thing is happening.
All right, Master Sechula, could you please briefly tell us about the game between the Copper Queens and South Korea today?
You know, the Copper Queens have qualified to the World Cup, and they have lined up a number of friendly matches. One of which is that they will face South Korea today, Friday, and also next week on Tuesday. These are some of the high-profile matches that the Football Association of Zambia has lined up for the Copper Queens, who came out third at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. So it is one of those preparatory matches that the association is trying to give to the girls, so that come the World Cup, the team should be ready. And also the coach, the technical bench, is using these friendlies to select their best 11 for the tournament.
All right, wishing them the best for today's game. Thank you so much, Mr. Sichila, for bringing us the latest news on the ground in Zambia.
Thank you very much. Africa, good morning. Do have a lovely Easter holiday.
Now let's take a look at the weather predictions and we'll return with our economic news.
In our economic news this morning, several African countries have a shortage of US dollars. Now, a number of African countries, including Kenya, Egypt, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Ghana, and Zambia, are currently experiencing shortages of US dollars. The dollar is a dominant currency in international transactions. These countries rely on the US currency to pay for foreign debts, essential goods, and industrial inputs. Development economist Christopher Adam explained what causes US dollar shortages and how they can be remedied. Global trade is conducted in the currencies of the world's major economic powers, principally the US dollar, the European Union's euro, and the Japanese yen, and to a lesser extent the Chinese renminbi and the UK's pound sterling. Now, individual firms and government elsewhere in the world need these currencies to import goods and services and make other payments. A dollar shortage is simply a situation where the demand for the foreign currency exceeds the available supply and the current exchange rate.
Now, Spain to invest 42 billion rand into South Africa's energy transition water projects. Spain is providing 2.1 billion euros, which is around 42 billion rand, to help fund South Africa's energy transition and water needs, even as some of the world's richest nations struggle to push forward on a groundbreaking climate finance initiative with the country. The Spanish funding is being provided through a mixture of financial instruments, with the country's government working with this development finance institution COVID and South Africa's Industrial Development Corporation, said Ambassador Raimundo Robredo Rubio. While not part of it, the Spanish initiative is in line with the aims of the $8.5 billion Just Energy Transition Partnership between South Africa and funding partners, including France, Germany, the US, UK, and the European Union. That program has been hailed as a pioneering example of how rich nations can help wean developing nations off their dependence on coal.
We'll bring you the sports news shortly after the break. Stay with us.
Sport Wrap is a daily show focusing on all sport news and current affairs. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact sportwrap@synergy.com.ma.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with golf news. It's the Masters Golf Tournament, the first major of the year that starts on Thursday, finishing on Sunday at Augusta in Georgia. Significant also this tournament for Rory McIlroy, currently world number 2. He's trying to achieve the Grand Slam. He's already won the British Open, US Open and PGA, but the one that's missing is the Masters. If you win all 4 of those majors, you're in the elite group of won the Grand Slam. Others that have won that in the past is Ben Hogan, also Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus and also Tiger Woods. So it will be quite an achievement for Rory McIlroy if he can achieve this on Sunday. Other players to watch out for, that's early favourites, the defending champion Scotty Scheffler. He's the world number 1 at the moment. Also world number 3, that is John Rahm. And then players from the Live Golf League that's also playing in the tournament. Number 6 in the world is Cameron Smith from Australia. And then American Brooks Koepka also showing good form also in the tournament. It's for the first day there's good weather for Masters Day, and Friday and Saturday they predict there's going to be rain. Sunday they say there's going to be good weather again. So Saturday specifically going to be a challenging day in the third round when there's lots of rain predicted for the Masters. Going on to soccer news, and midweek games in the English Premier League continued, and it was Manchester United and Newcastle in action, both of them winning and both of them cementing positions at the moment in the top 4 of the English Premier League. Top 4 quite significant for the English Premier League. If you're there, you qualify for the UEFA Champions League next season. Manchester United at home beating Brentford by 1-0, and it was a good away win for Newcastle. They beat West Ham by 5-1, and that put them both on 53 points. That is both Manchester United and Newcastle on 53 points, and it is Tottenham Hotspur in 5th position now on 50 points. Moving on to tennis news, on international sports news, it is the Charlton Open tennis tournament sponsored by Credit One that's currently taking place. It's the Women's WTA Tour, and results from the round of 32 is number 4 seed Belinda Bencic. She is from Switzerland. She beat Catherine Sebov of Canada by 6-love and 6-3. Then also Shelby Rogers, she beat Katie McNally by 6-7, 7-5 and 6-1. Shelby Rogers is unseeded in the tournament. And then number 1 seed Jessica Pegula from the United States. She beat Anna Blinkova quite convincingly 6-2 and 6-love. She will now next play in the round of 16. She will play Irene Begu of Romania. It is Irene Begu of Romania that beat Sonia Kenin of the United States by 6-1 and 6-4. Closing off today's international sports news with cricket news, and that's related to New Zealand, and it's not good news for them in the World Cup coming up later this year in India. It is the 50-over World Cup, and it is Kane Williamson, the captain of New Zealand, not being able to play in the World Cup from 5 October to 19 November in India. The reason for that is he ruptured his arterial cruciate ligament, or like they say, his ACL. He ruptured that in the opening game of the IPL tournament that started in India, the Indian Premier League. So he's had to go for right knee surgery. So that will put him out of the tournament. That's a big loss for New Zealand cricket. He's an influential captain and also one of the best batsmen in world cricket at the moment. What happened is that in Gujarat Titans already, the team that Kane Williamson played for had a good start in the IPL. They won their first 2 games. There's going to be 70 games in the IPL. The final will only be played on the 21st of May. And so there's lots of cricket to be played still. Game 8, the latest one that was played was the Punjab Kings that beat the Rajasthan Royals by 5 runs. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day and we talk again tomorrow. Goodbye.
And with that, we've come to the end of our program. But before we say goodbye, let's take a look at the highlights for a quick recap. Zimbabwe to criminalise foreign recruitment of health workers. Protests planned as Sudan's army promises to stick to delayed transition deal. 9 suspected cash-in-transit robbers killed in shootout with Gauteng police. Several African countries have a shortage of US dollars.
Those have been our stories. We thank you very much for watching our show this morning. Please be reminded that we welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can post them on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Africa Good Morning screens on DSTV channel 285 as well as GoTV channel 94. And on that note, it is all our love, all our light, and happy Good Friday.